I've recently got back from Turin, Italy, where I was there live for WWE Clash in Italy 2026. If you would like to see my very special edition of my WWE PLE recap series specifically about Clash in Italy, you can find the video up here in the corner, or I will also put a link in the description down below. And in this video I share footage from me being at the event itself. It shows me going to the Clash in Italy store in the shopping centre in Turin. It shows you some of the things I bought, including this awesome Rhea Ripley shirt. I talk through all the matches and stuff like I usually do, and go through the results and see how I did against my predictions, but this time I also interspliced a lot of my own personal footage that I took whilst I was at the show. But today we are here to talk about the King and the Queen of the Ring tournaments which have started taking place. Two of the first round Fatal 4-Way matches have already happened, all of which contain 2 superstars from Raw and 2 superstars from SmackDown. Now, before we get into the tournament brackets and potential winners, let's talk about the involvement of Women's World Champion Liv Morgan in the Queen of the Ring tournament. Since winning the title back at WrestleMania 42, she's yet to have a single proper storyline or feud with anyone, which is really disappointing. She's explained in kayfabe that nobody wants to challenge her for her title because they're all too scared, and that she's going to enter and win Queen of the Ring because she wants it all, which I can only presume would mean that if she did win the tournament, she would challenge for the WWE Women's Championship at SummerSlam. The first round matchup that she is in is absolutely stacked as well, as she will face off with Becky Lynch, Alexa Bliss and Chelsea Green. Io Sky was the first participant to qualify for the semi-finals of the tournament, as she defeated Roxanne Perez, Julia and Lash Legend this week on Raw, which I was also lucky enough to be at. As they're on opposite sides of the bracket, there is a potential that we could see a Liv Morgan versus Io Sky final in the Queen of the Ring tournament, which would be really interesting, and I'm not quite sure what would happen in that scenario, because Io would be facing the Women's World Champion in the final, and as she is a Raw superstar, if she won the tournament, she would then be entitled to face the Women's World Champion for the championship. So if she beats Liv Morgan in the final of the tournament, she would be rewarded with another match against Liv Morgan for the championship, which I don't think is necessarily the best thing in the world. I mean, alternatively, I suppose they could say, well, you beat the one world champion in that, so you're actually going to face Rhea Ripley instead. That is an amazing storyline that I think is going to happen at some point in the future, as Io and Rhea are absolute best friends. The storyline is there. Rhea has never beaten Io one-on-one, so I think there is an inevitable heel turn coming at some point down the line. And Rhea versus Io can absolutely main event a WrestleMania night, so I don't think they're going to go with that here. Nor do I think Liv is going to win it, to be fair. It would be a swerve, but I think this will be an example of a swerve just for the sake of a swerve, because it doesn't really benefit anyone. It's not going to elevate anyone. Liv Morgan is already a world champion. If she was to then get a world championship match against Rhea Ripley, it would just be 2 bona fide main event superstars having a match. One would win, one would lose, and we'd move on. I would absolutely love Chelsea Green to win it, though. I've spoken recently about how passionate I am about how much I think Chelsea Green deserves the opportunity to have a proper babyface run, and that I think she has a massive potential to be a really, really popular babyface. This tournament could be a launching pad for her to become a big single superstar. She doesn't necessarily need to win the World Championship either, just her winning the Queen of the Ring tournament in the first place and having that big world title match at SummerSlam would be huge for her. Jade Cargill winning would be boring because it would just lead to a third match with Rhea Ripley, which none of us want to see at this point. I've enjoyed both of the Rhea Jade matches. I was obviously there live for the one in Italy just now. It was a really good match, but I have no desire to see them have a third match. There's no storyline need to do it whatsoever. I don't think Charlotte Flair is going to win either. She could. It's been a while since she's been in the world title scene, but I don't think they're going to insert her back into that scene until they've wrapped up her storyline with Alexa Bliss. And nobody else really stands out as a potential winner for me, to be honest, so I'm quite firm in my stance that Chelsea Green is the best choice to win the 2026 Queen of the Ring tournament. As always, if you have enjoyed this video so far, please do subscribe to the channel or support me in any way that you can. I've got some brand new content that's dropped recently, including the very special WWE PLE recap video for Clash in Italy, which I mentioned at the start of this video, and also the third in my monthly Replica belt review monthly series has dropped a few days ago, where I review the United States Championship. Existing reviews that are already on the channel and ready for you to watch are the WWE Spinner Championship and the network logo WWE Championship, so if replica WWE belts are your thing, please do head over to my channel or check out the links in the description down below to go and look at those reviews and see my belts up close and personal in 4K whilst I talk through them, the history of the belt and the quality of the replicas themselves. Now on to the King of the Ring tournament. Obafemi is the first participant to qualify for the semi-finals, as he defeated Carmelo Hayes, Solo Sikoa and Penta in a fatal 4-way on Raw this week. He was made to look incredibly strong, fighting off all 3 opponents at the same time initially, as they all jumped him at the start of the match because everybody recognised that Oba was the biggest threat. But he fought them all off, Obviously, the match split up a bit and they were having different kind of one-on-one fights throughout the match, but ultimately Obafemi did pick up the victory to immediately bounce back from his defeat to Brock Lesnar at Clash in Italy. In kayfabe, I would say that Oba is easily the favourite to win the tournament. However, I don't think he's actually going to be, as I presume he's going to be screwed out of it by Brock Lesnar at some point, whether that be in the semi-finals or in the final itself at Night of Champions in Saudi Arabia. We also learned on Raw that Roman Reigns has tasked Jey Uso with winning the King of the Ring tournament and taking the WWE Championship from Cody Rhodes. This is certainly an interesting storyline. I'm intrigued to see where it goes, but I personally don't think Jey is going to win the tournament. I think this is just planting little seeds to the inevitable rematch between Cody Rhodes and Roman Reigns at some point in the future, which I would say is probably going to happen at Crown Jewel when we do champion versus champion. I think that is the best place to have their third match because I think there's definitely an appetite for it. I would love to see Cody versus Roman 3, but I don't want to see it at WrestleMania again, or at least not for 3 or 4 or 5 years. For example, if it's going to be the big final one, I'd rather see them just have a big special exhibition match at Crown Jewel, and then we can move on. For me, there are 2 people that make the most sense to win the King of the Ring tournament, and that is Seth Rollins or LA Knight. Gunther is 100% going to get a rematch against Cody Rhodes for the WWE title after the controversy that happened in their match at Clash in Italy. So based on that, I presume the match is going to happen at Night of Champions. There's no reason to drag that rematch out any longer than that. So if Cody faces Gunther for the WWE title at Night of Champions, I can only assume that the winner of the King of the Ring tournament is going to be a Raw superstar and therefore challenge Roman Reigns for his World Heavyweight Championship. Seth probably makes the most sense. He's got a rich history with Roman dating way back to their days in the Shield and all the times since then that they've referenced their history together and the times that they've crossed paths. This is a well that they can go to whenever they feel like it. WWE has never really committed to doing the Reigns-Rollins story. I know they did have a match for the Universal title at, I think it was Royal Rumble 2022, and correct me if I'm wrong, I believe Roman lost by disqualification because he wouldn't release the guillotine on Seth when he had the ropes. It was definitely something like that. I'm certain that Seth won by disqualification. It's kind of like the only blemish on the record of Roman Reigns' championship reign. Obviously, it doesn't matter because he retained the championship by DQ. But you know what I mean. They crossed paths again in the whole fiasco with WrestleMania 40. We saw Roman choose not to strike Cody Rhodes with a steel chair, but instead he struck Seth because that's what Seth did to him, which broke up the Shield and all the trauma behind that. But they've never really addressed it and had a proper singles feud between the two. And I really, really hope they do eventually. And even if Seth wins this tournament, they're not really going to do it properly. They'll tap into it, they'll have one match at SummerSlam, and then I think they'll move on. It would be a crime to the pro wrestling industry if Roman Reigns and Seth Rollins never have a singles match at WrestleMania. But I'm starting to get to the point where I just don't think it's going to happen anymore. They're clearly waiting on The Rock to be available so they can do Rock versus Roman. I absolutely want to see that as well. But for God's sake, I just want The Rock to commit to something. I know the man is busy. I know he's shooting films and he owns businesses and he's on the board at TKO. But for God's sake, just say, right, WrestleMania in 2 years' time, on this date, we're going to do Rock versus Roman. Lock it in. That storyline is ready-made. You can pick it up and deliver it whenever you feel like it. So he just needs to commit, for God's sake. WWE is objectively a better product when The Rock is involved, as long as he's committed. We saw what happened when he wasn't committed. He was right there in the middle of John Cena's heel turn. Incredible moment. One of the best moments in WWE history. And for the record, I enjoyed John Cena's heel run. But it was let down by the fact he had to completely pivot and work it out by himself because The Rock and Travis Scott just left. I feel like Roman and Rollins is going to end up like John Cena and Edge, an iconic rivalry that fans will always remember, but they just never got that big singles match at WrestleMania. Anyway, like I said, they can always tap into the Seth and Roman well whenever they feel like it. The story is ready-made, built in, ready for them to go whenever they feel like picking that plot line up. After all, Seth did relatively recently say that Roman Reigns is running around with his World Heavyweight Championship, and he was forced to vacate it due to injury, so he never actually lost the World Heavyweight Championship. So despite the obvious history in wanting to dethrone Roman and take the championship off him, he feels like that's still his championship. LA Knight is another solid option. He rose to popularity with a groundswell of support from the WWE Universe over the last few years, but he's never been given the opportunity to have a world title run. He's held the United States Championship twice, and he won the Slim Jim Battle Royal at SummerSlam, but that's really it. He's never really been given the ball and had a chance to run with it and show what he can do, and for the record, I think he's immensely talented and underrated. They never pulled the trigger on him winning Money in the Bank, especially in 2023 in London, which I think would have been the opportune moment to do it. I was lucky enough to go to that event as well. with it being in my home country of the UK and just a few hours away from me in London. And there was such a groundswell of support for LA Knight at the time, and it really felt like he was the man that should be winning Money in the Bank. And when Damian Priest won it instead, as much as I was happy for Damian, and ultimately he had a great cash-in against Drew McIntyre at WrestleMania, at the time it just felt like, oh, why have they not gone with LA Knight here? It was so easy. They just teed it up and they just didn't go for it. And I think he's only ever really had a few World Championship opportunities as well. There are 2 world title matches that LA Knight has had that immediately spring to mind. The first of which is the Universal Championship match against Roman Reigns, which I think was at Crown Jewel 2023. The biggest thing that sticks out for me in that little feud at the time was when Roman Reigns was just about to lift his title for like his iconic aura-inducing entrance, and LA Knight's music hit, and he just waltzed right past Roman and didn't care. That was a fantastic moment. They had a really good match. So there was that one, and then I'm sure he was in the Fatal 4-Way match at Clash in Paris for the World Heavyweight Championship. Apart from that, I can't really think of any more opportunities that he's had. He's probably had 1 or 2 more, but not really anything that memorable. But my point is, he's never been given the opportunity to show whether he can hold down a world title reign. I want to see WWE experiment with more world champions. Not all the time, I don't want the championships to hot potato all the time, but we don't need every world championship reign to be long and months and months and months. We can change the title every 2 or 3 months for, just for a year to try it on a few new people. The Jey Uso thing, right? It didn't work. It objectively did not work. He bottled it, for lack of a better phrase. I don't mean to be horrible, I don't mean to be harsh on the guy, but Jey Uso had the spotlight on him, he had everything there for him, and he couldn't cope with the pressure. And they had to turn some of his botches into storyline, and it just, he beat Gunther at WrestleMania, and I could see it coming a mile away, and it felt a little bit manufactured, and I just assumed he was going to pin Gunther, and that's kind of fair enough. The fact they had Jey Uso make Gunther tap out, to me, is like such a huge blemish on Gunther's record nowadays that just makes no sense. But anyway, I'm glad that WWE at least tried. They tried something different. They saw, look, this guy is mega over. He's selling merch hand over foot. Arenas are going crazy for him, which they still are, by the way. It's not like he's been buried. But it just didn't work with him as a world champion. But that's okay. They tried something different. And going forward over the next few years, WWE are going to have to do that because a lot of their top stars now are aging. And I admit that pro wrestlers these days can go a lot longer, so you can be in your prime for longer. People are more likely to wrestle till they're 45 now than years ago when they would have been 35 and they would have been done. You look at Roman Reigns, he's like absolutely at the peak of his powers and he's still got a few years left in him yet. Same thing with Seth Rollins, same thing with CM Punk. They're not going to be around for much longer, but they've definitely got a few more years left in them. But you look at the upper echelons of WWE and how long these people have got left, and a lot of people are going to be ticking on 5 years or less. So we need the new generation to be coming through, and we've got the likes of Obafemi, we've got the likes of Bron Breakker. And I know LA Knight's not young, I'm not trying to say he's a nice young hot talent, but for me that's even more reason to give him a chance. Give him the World Championship, what's the worst that can happen? Give him world title reign for a few months and see what he can do with it. But I digress. A couple of other contenders I think could potentially win the tournament are Jey Uso, who I've already alluded to, and Bron Breakker. Regardless of who wins the tournament, I don't think that Roman Reigns is going to drop the World Heavyweight title at King of the Ring. So with that being said, I'd say that Seth is probably a better choice to win the tournament because he can lose to Roman. It's not going to be that big of a deal. We get some really entertaining TV for a few weeks and a fantastic match, and then we'd move on. Whereas it would be a bigger deal for LA Knight to win the tournament, but I feel like if you give LA Knight King of the Ring and then have him fall over again at the World Championship opportunity, it's just going to frustrate people. Although, as much as I think Seth Rollins would be kind of one of the most logical choices to win the tournament, I don't think his storyline with Bron Breakker is over yet. The two just had a freaking great match on Monday Night Raw in Italy, which was incredible to be there in person for. But that was only their second match. That was Seth getting his win back against Bron. There's going to be a trilogy there. I'm sure that last match is going to be at SummerSlam. And that would be when this World Championship opportunity happens. Whoever wins King of the Ring will be challenging the World Champion of their brand at SummerSlam. So I think Seth's already going to be tied up. Maybe it's going to be Bron Breakker that costs him the tournament. Who knows? But although I think Seth would be one of the best choices to win the tournament, I don't think that's actually what they're going to go with, which does also make sense because of his ongoing feud with Bron. I'm not going to predict a winner right now, but based on all the things I've just discussed and outlined, it makes for a really intriguing tournament this year. There's a big opportunity up for grabs, especially if the winner is from Raw, because challenging Roman Reigns in what would no doubt be the Night 2 main event for the World Heavyweight Championship is a huge platform for anyone and a huge opportunity. Thank you guys for watching. Please let me know in the comments section down below who you think is going to win both the King and the Queen of the Ring tournaments respectively. Do you agree with my opinions? Do you agree with where I think storylines are going in the matches that are going to be happening at Night of Champions, at SummerSlam? Or do you think something totally different? Please do let me know down below in the comments section so we can have a really good discussion about it. Other than that, please like this video, please subscribe to the channel, please hit the bell for notifications, check out my other content like my belt reviews, my couple of unboxing videos, my PLE recaps, PLE predictions, you name it. If you love pro wrestling content, you'll love my channel. Head over there. Thank you very much, and until next time, see you later.